Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Gartshore's Garage. And once again, we are out and about in the Flying Chicken, the Skoda Kodiaq. And today we're going to do something rather different. My plan today was actually to introduce you to a new member of the fleet. However, weather has been disgraceful and I haven't been able to get out for a decent recording. And today I have to do a couple of errands anyway, so I thought we'd go for a little run and I'd introduce you to the world of the legendary, the one and only German Autobahn. Now, the Autobahn has all sorts of myths and mystique attached to it. All around the world, everyone knows the German Autobahn is this amazing piece of infrastructure where you can fly in your car between cities in a matter of minutes because there is no such thing as a speed limit. You can do what you want. Well, I'm going to put an end to some of those myths today. We're going to have a little drive on the Autobahn. I'm going to give you some of the Autobahn's history. I'm going to tell you about some of the things that people might not know about the Autobahn, some things you probably all know about the Autobahn, and then we are going to quash the biggest myth of them all, speed limits on the Autobahn. So, I'm very fortunate. I live very close to one of the main Autobahns in Germany. I live very close to the A3. Does this guy want to join the Autobahn? I don't know where he's going. He's playing with his mobile phone rather than paying attention to what's going on here. Always be very aware of people playing with their mobile phones while they are driving. This is a big thing in Germany. They're not supposed to do it, but nobody checks them up on it. And in my opinion, this is only my opinion, the fines, if you get caught, are far too low. And we've all been guilty of it. We've all, answered a phone call on our mobile phones when we're driving. And it is distracting. But anyway, that's not the point of today's video. Today's video is about this, the Autobahn. Now, we have just joined, very unceremoniously, the Autobahn, the A3, and immediately there's a speed limit, 130 kilometers an hour. So I will set my navigation, my sat-nav, my radar sat-nav, I will set it at 130 kilometers an hour and we shall relax. Now, history of the Autobahn. Let's go over the history of it first. Myth number one. Everyone thinks the Autobahn is a Nazi invention. It was invented by the Nazis, it was crowned by Adolf, and it was blah, 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 blah. Rubbish. The Autobahn is a much older invention than Nazi Germany. Yes, Autobahns were built during Nazi Germany and, it was quite handy for them because they needed to get stuff around the country for war efforts. So building the Autobahn was a rather clever way of getting it done. But however, it is not an invention of you-know-who and that regime. The Autobahn, the idea of the Autobahn actually came from the late 1920s. And, there's a speed camera. I'll need to remember that for the way back. So anyway, an invention in the late 1920s. And the idea was just basically to get some fast roads joining the big major cities of Germany. Other countries were doing similar things, and off they went. They started doing it. Now, the first ever stretch of Autobahn was actually not for public use. It was actually a test stretch. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I must quickly stop. Here is the amazing sign, the legendary sign that tells us we can now drive at whatever speed we like. I'll come back to that in a minute. So I'm going to speed up now. I'm going to remove my radar cruise control and I'm going to speed up. We are now doing, there it is, 160 kilometers an hour or 100 miles an hour in imperial units. And as you can see from my front-facing camera, everything is running smoothly. It's a Monday afternoon. It's almost 3 o'clock on a Monday afternoon, and everything is running smoothly. Back to the history. So that first test trek, it was test trek, I'm speaking German now, aren't I? That first sort of test stretch, that was the word I was looking for, was around about Berlin. And it wasn't very long, it was only about 20 kilometers or something like that. People could rent it for testing purposes, and that was the idea. Now, eventually they caught on, this would be a good idea, wouldn't it? Let's build some fast roads between some of the major cities. And in the early 30s, the first official stretch of Autobahn was opened between Cologne and Bonn. It wasn't called the Autobahn at the time, it was just called something like a fast road, something like that. And the then mayor of Cologne, who later became the first chancellor after the war, Konrad Adenauer, he opened this amazing stretch of road between Cologne and Bonn. It's still around today. It's now the A555. And when I moved to Germany 25 years ago, I lived in Bonn. And one of the first things I did, I rented a very fast car. It was an Audi A8 with the 4.2 V8 engine in it. And I went for a spin on the A555, which in those days, 25 years ago, was completely de-restricted. And you could fly up and down that road. It was absolutely wonderful. I loved it. Now, as you can see, this is theoretically a de-restricted part of the A3 we are driving along at the moment. Traffic is pretty heavy. We are driving 135 kilometers an hour behind this Macan, and you can't go any faster. Now, amazingly, I thought there would be an awful lot of people out today. I was hoping to demonstrate this to you. I don't have a rear-facing camera. That would be quite naughty. I don't want to impersonate motorway police. That would not be a good idea. To show you that sometimes you get people who are in such a hurry, they are sort of banging about and they really want to get somewhere really fast, and they will fly up behind you, flashing their lights and indicating left because they want to overtake. Things like that are becoming less common, thankfully. There are more and more controls out on the Autobahn to keep an eye on these things, so it's getting better. But there are still some of those idiots around. We might encounter one today, who knows? Right, so there was a sort of brief history of the Autobahn. Now, of course, during the Nazi occupation of Germany, I'm going to call it an occupation, we're not going to do history today, but during that time, Autobahns were built all around the country, and that's, I think, why people associate them with that regime, although they have no direct connection. Anyway, so there's a bit of history of it. Now, over the years, this amazing network of huge roads has become the fourth largest in the world. The largest is, of course, China. China has hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of kilometers of Autobahn, closely followed by America. Well, not closely followed at all. America comes much, much later, but in second place is America. In third place, rather surprisingly, I didn't know this, I had to look this up. In third place, rather surprisingly, is Spain. I would never have thought Spain would have more Autobahn kilometers than Germany, but it does. And then in fourth place, we have Germany. I'll put something up on the screen telling you exactly how many kilometers of Autobahn there are in Germany. I can't remember off the top of my head. It's a lot. It's a lot. It's a wonderful invention. Now, the whole point of an Autobahn, or a motorway, or a freeway, blah, 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 wherever you are in the world, the whole point is it's a fast connecting road between major points of interest in a country. The roads themselves have multiple lanes. I'm currently on a 3-lane stretch of the A3. There is a hard shoulder to the side, which doesn't belong to the main body of the Autobahn. It's only there for emergencies, or if as directed by blue flashing lights and the likes. So if there's roadworks or accidents or whatever, you're allowed to use that if directed. There's a central reservation where it's completely blocked off. You cannot get to the other side. And the idea is, certainly in Germany, it's limited. Here's someone flying past. I'm doing 140 at the moment, and he's doing more. It's limited. There's a lower limit on the Autobahn. You are not allowed to drive slower than 60 km/h on the Autobahn, assuming, of course, conditions allow. So vehicles that are not capable of 60 kilometers an hour or more are not permitted on the Autobahn. Pedestrians are not permitted on the Autobahn, and of course there are no direct crossroads running into and out of an Autobahn. There are dedicated entrances and exits. In German, the hilariously Einfahrt and Ausfahrt, to get onto and get out of the Autobahn. And theoretically, you're not allowed to stop on the Autobahn, and you're not allowed to drive backwards on the Autobahn. So those are the basic rules. In Germany, everyone assumes, as you will have been doing by now, that it's completely de-restricted all the way. Not true. A third of the German Autobahn network is restricted. A third of all of it, the complete things. Now, of most of the big Autobahns like this, well over half of them are actually restricted. So the whole country as a whole, a third has a speed limit somewhere on it. And over half of the main arteries, one of which we are driving along at the moment, over half of the main arteries are speed limited. However, there are these de-restricted parts, and you're allowed to do whatever you want. However, that's not also necessarily true. You don't have the privilege to drive as fast as you want and push everyone else out of the way. If conditions allow, you are allowed to drive as fast as your vehicle is capable of. If, however, you are involved in, or God forbid, cause an accident and high levels of speed were the cause, then good luck, because that's gonna go against you very much. Now, over the years, hold on, I will save this sentence for a minute. We are now entering another stretch of limited speed, 130 kilometers again, and this time they've told us it's limited for 7 kilometers. Right, 7 kilometers. We are at 210 on the odometer. Let's find out. A nice Porsche 911 Turbo there, without any turbo markings on it. Nice, nice, nice. So basically, in the de-restricted sections, if conditions allow, you can drive as fast as your vehicle and your ability will let you. Some people, of course, have taken this to mean that because they're in a big fast car, they should be allowed to get past you if you happen to be overtaking someone at the time. Sadly, that is, of course, not true. And if you get caught doing a bit of the old road rage kind of stuff, then you are in serious trouble. That is definitely one of the heaviest fines on the German Autobahn. Speeding fines. If you get caught speeding in sections, then yes, it is rather expensive. You will be fined. You will have points on your license if you're over a certain speed, and if you keep doing it, you will lose your license. Or if you are particularly fast, you will lose your license for a minimum of a month and up to forever. So it's not a free-for-all like everybody seems to think. Now, it's still 130. It's now telling me we have 130 for another 3.5 kilometers. So there we are. So we have passed half of it. My Porsche Macan driver does not want to be overtaken. But that's fine. We're going to do it anyway. Rules of the road. Drive on the right wherever possible, or the inside lane. Yeah, this is a big one in Germany. Nobody likes driving in the inside lane. The inside lane is reserved for trucks, lorries, slow-moving vehicles, caravans, morons, and anyone who doesn't feel that they should be able to drive as fast as possible. However, that's not true. There is a rule that says you will drive on the right. You must drive in the furthest lane to the inside if conditions allow, and you're not actively overtaking anything, and you will not actively overtake anything within the next 20 seconds. That's the part that nobody knows. I will get into all sorts of comments here. Please add your comments below here, whatever you fancy. What's happening here? Oh, my forward-facing camera has overheated and has stopped recording. That's pretty useless, isn't it? Oh well, I'll have to get rid of that then. It's all right, this is a fairly boring stretch anyway. It shouldn't have overheated. It's not designed to overheat. Now, we're entering a stretch that is no longer 130. This stretch, I'll have to tell you, and you'll have to believe me, this stretch is now 100 kilometers. We are going down a valley and then coming back up the other side. So we have to be very careful here. And there are a battery of speed cameras to control this element. The Porsche driver refuses to move back into the lane behind me and is blocking the left lane. Lane discipline, that's what we were talking about just before. Lane discipline is hilarious. And a lot of people think incorrectly that it's okay to stay in the, if there's a 3-lane motorway, you can stay in the middle lane the whole time You don't need to move over back into the inside lane, and there's no need to move into the outside lane. That's where all the really fast stuff is. That's dangerous over there. I'm just going to stay in the middle lane because I'm comfortable here. Sadly, that is incredibly wrong and actually very, very dangerous. They sort of swim with the traffic. So if someone is moving slower in front of them, they will slow down. If someone moves fast, they will then speed up again. They're not paying attention. They are driving very passively according to what's going on around them. Terrible way to drive, very dangerous, causes all sorts of traffic jams. It's the old spring, it's the coil effect, isn't it? It jams up and then whatever we go. Now, everyone is, of course, jamming on their brakes here. Sadly, I can't show you this because we have speed cameras. So everyone is slowing down. We just passed the speed cameras. And as soon as the speed cameras are passed, everybody speeds up again. Although the speed limit is still 100 km/h. Terrible. Everyone brakes to about 80 km/h for the speed cameras and then speeds up again. Just stick to the speed limit, people, and enjoy. Now, we're still coming down the hill of this valley and we are about to once again enter 130 zone. Get the idea? It's not de-restricted at all, at least not very much. So it said 5.5 kilometers of 130. So let's enjoy it. Right. Now, unfortunately, I still can't record the front-facing camera because there's a wonderful sign I wanted to show you. Damn it, I'll have to see if I can find one on the internet, put it on the screen. The de-restricted sign. Everybody loves the de-restricted sign. However, there are many different de-restricted signs. So you've got your white background and you've got your slanty lines, your black slanty lines. If there's anything else on that sign, it only means it's the end of that restriction. So for example, there was a restriction for 80 when wet. So if the road surface is completely wet, then you should only be driving 80. Conditions aren't very good. We're on a concrete section of the road, not a tarmac section. Not good. Anyway, so obviously they want you to slow down when it's wet, slippery surface. Fine. And then at the end of that, there will be the de-restricted sign, but with the 80 when wet written in there. Is this guy going to overtake? Yes, so I will overtake him. Thank you very much. Still 130 for the speed limit, though. Only when you see that sign, the de-restricted sign, with nothing else in it, does it mean that we are back to de-restricted speed. That's very important. Now, this is a strange anomaly. This stretch of the A3 I am on here, in this direction, going northwards, it's limited to 130. However, going southwards, the exact same stretch, and we will be driving along there in a little bit, the exact same stretch is 120. And there's a very good reason for that. Camera is powering off. Oh, right, it's definitely overheating. Well, that's fine. There's a very good reason for that. We have entered another German state. We have just left Rhineland-Pfalz, the Rhine-Palatinate, and we have entered Nordrhein-Westfalen, or North Rhine-Westphalia. Gosh, isn't that good? And in North Rhine-Westphalia, the sort of the general restriction, if they're just trying to sort of slow people down, is 120 kilometers an hour, which is about 75 miles an hour, 74, 75, something like that. In my state, Rhineland-Pfalz, where I live, the Palatinate, it's 130, which is getting on for 80 miles an hour. Why? Because all the different states in Germany, they can do what they want. They can do what they want. Now, up until a few years ago, all the Autobahns in all of Germany, they belonged to the state. And they were governed by the whole state. Each individual state could do what it wanted. I'm ashamed I can't record this. This is the perfect example of, I'm in the inside lane and everyone's crawling along in the middle lane. I would like to overtake, but I'm not allowed to overtake on the inside. I'm not allowed to undertake. So I have to overtake on the outside. Now, there's a de-restricted sign coming up ahead, so I'm going to get out into the outside lane and put my foot down. That guy that I just overtook, that's a swimmer. He's not going to be overtaking anything. This guy here is a swimmer. He's driving the exact same speed as the car beside him, and he's not overtaking anything, but no, he's been comfortable in the middle, and he's playing with his mobile phone. Why do they do it? I think what we'll do, we'll come off at this exit here. I will see what's going on with this camera, and then we will turn around and go home. So let's just pull in here, slow down behind this very nice Mercedes who's driving very slowly. Presumably they're turning off here as well. So since about 2021, or was it 2022? I'm not exactly sure, I can't remember. The Autobahns have been pretty much denationalized. Oh, probably not a very good idea. And they are now being run by partly the states, the individual states, and sort of an overlooking company called the Autobahn GmbH, so the Autobahn Limited. And is that going to be a good idea? Probably not. Why? When they were state-owned, it was wonderful. They would get repaired instantly. Instantly. If anything went wrong with an Autobahn, boom, they were out there repairing them instantly. Nowadays, it takes a long time for the companies to get out there. I suppose they put it out to competition and then they spend months fighting over who gets to do it, and then still nothing gets done. Is that a good thing? Possibly, probably not. Right, now we just exited the Autobahn and we're going to turn around and go back the other direction now. Because I'm in this car, there's going to be no sort of high-speed runs. This car isn't, I mean, it will do 200 kilometers an hour quite comfortably, but it's not very economical. And I am still Scottish, so I don't do it very often. But I do, you know, when conditions allow, I will quite happily sit at 100 miles an hour on the Autobahn and just enjoy moving nice and fast. It does get you between A and B quicker. However, if on an average day like today, when there's average traffic in both directions, there really is no point in driving much faster than the 130, 140 recommended speed. Because you're going to come up against traffic all the time. You're going to have to be overtaking. There are going to be people in front of you, people all over the place. So you're going to be slowing down, speeding up, slowing down, speeding up. It's not a very economical and satisfying way of driving long distances. What you want for long distances, you want to be as calm and collected as possible and just get there. So if you stick to your sensible speed, I'm now driving at 130 again. We have another middle lane hogger there doing his thing. Nobody to be overtaken. I can see a truck about at least a kilometer away from me. Maybe half a kilometer away now. I won't be there in 20 seconds time, so I don't need to move out yet. Oh gosh, these rules, aren't they wonderful? However, this guy here is slowing down for no reason, so let's overtake him. Or her, sorry. Actually, I'm going to overtake this swimmer guy here as well. There's nobody thrashing up behind me, so well, let's go for it. How many Autobahns are there in Germany? Hundreds. How do they work? Well, it's rather simple actually. Of course it's simple, it's German. Wonderful system. Single digit Autobahn numbers. So you've got the A1, the A2, the A3, the A4, blah, blah, blah. So the A1 to the A9. The 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, the odd numbers, they basically run from north to south. And they will invariably cross borders at either end. So the A1 will take you from Denmark in the north down to, well, the A1 sort of ends down near France. Let's just call it that. The A3, the one I am currently on, it takes you from the northwest, from the Netherlands, down to the southeast, down to the Czech Republic. Or is it Austria? It's either Austria or the Czech border. I've never been all the way down there. It sort of goes down past Passau and then I think to the Czech Republic, the A3. The A5 is a lovely one. It goes from Hamburg in the north right down to the Swiss border, to Basel. It's a lovely motorway, wonderful. My favorite, however, is the A7. I think the A7, it's also the longest. The A7 also runs from the very northern border there with, is it also Denmark? I think it is. And it runs all the way down to the Austrian border down in the Alps. It's a lovely stretch of road. It's one of those sort of road trip stretches of roads. I'd love to drive it one day. I think it's wonderful. All of it, the whole thing. It's getting on for 800 kilometers long. And then there's the A9, which is affectionately known as the German racetrack. The A9 runs basically from the northeast, so around Berlin. Why aren't you moving into the right lane? Crawling along at 100 in the middle. Heavens above. Falling asleep as well by the looks of it. Here's the stretch I was talking about earlier. It's 120 in this direction, 130 in that direction. So we'll slow down and enjoy. There's also a speed camera up ahead. The A9, yeah, it runs from sort of the sort of Berlin area, and then to the north, up towards the Baltic, and runs all the way down past Munich, down to the south of Germany, basically. So that's that. Then you've got the 2468. They run from west to east, crisscross pattern, very clever. So the A2 is the furthest north. It runs from, again, is it the Dutch border? I'm guessing it's the Dutch border, all the way to the Polish border. The A4 splits. The A4 runs from Aachen, which is over on the west, again, bordering Holland. It runs from there, and it runs all the way over to the east, again, either the Polish or the Czech border. I really should have checked that out, shouldn't I? But it splits in the middle. After sort of round about Cologne, it joins the A3 for a bit, then it becomes the A4 again. Then over on the sort of further east from Cologne, about 80 kilometers east of Cologne, it stops. And it becomes the A45, and then it becomes the A5, and then it becomes the A4 again, heading east to past Erfurt and Leipzig and all those sorts of places. It's a very nice one. They will eventually sort of cut through the country and complete the A4, so it won't be broken, which will be great. Then there's the A6, which is slightly further down. It takes you from the Saarland, from France, almost all the way over to the east again. I think that is also the Czech border. And then there's the A8, which basically runs, well, the A8's a bit confusing. It runs sort of through bits of Western Germany, and then it's sort of round about the southwest, round about Karlsruhe, it sort of turns into the actual A8, the main big fancy A8 that runs all the way through to the Austrian border towards Salzburg. It's a very nice stretch of road as well. Lots of roadworks on it. Everyone's slowing down for a speed camera here. And nobody's always moving into the right lane. That's very kind, isn't it? Right, you slow down to 80. It's 100 that's allowed, so I'm going to drive past the speed camera at 100. Nobody else does. I don't get them. Then I'm going to put my radar cruise control on, because here we have a lot of unmarked police checking this area. I used my radar cruise control to keep the speed down. Now, so those are the main sort of arteries, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now, what about the 10s, the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, and so on, and then all the little hundreds that come underneath that? Well, this is where it becomes confusing. They're more closely related to the postcodes of Germany. So the ones, the 10s, shall we say, all the 10s and the 100s, they're all based around Berlin. The 20s, they're all based around North Germany. The 30s around Hanover, the 40s around the Ruhrgebiet, the 50s around Cologne and Bonn, the 60s around sort of Frankfurt and Mainz and over towards Saarland and things like that. The 70s are sort of down in the south. The 80s are sort of somewhere in the south, middle east thing, and then the 90s. The 90s are actually then up again around. Well, they're all over the place basically. They sort of run out of numbers for the rest of them. It's very confusing. So you might sort of think that A10, 11, 12, 13, they've got something to do with the A1. No, they don't. It's kind of confusing. But that's the only confusing bit about it. The German Autobahn, an amazing, amazing, amazing construction. My little anecdotes about the German Autobahn. When I moved to Germany 25 years ago, I came from the UK. I'm originally from Inverness in the north of Scotland. Now in Inverness, there's no such thing as a motorway. You've got to go to Perth before you get a bit of motorway. And from Perth, you've got the M90, which goes down to Edinburgh. And then from roughly Stirling, you've got the M9, which then takes you down towards Glasgow. And then, of course, once you hit Glasgow, Edinburgh, that's not true, actually. From Edinburgh, it only has that one motorway. That has the A8 that takes you through to the M8, sorry, that takes you through to Glasgow, or the M90 that takes you north, and that's it. But from Glasgow, you've got a lot, motorways that take you across the border into England. It becomes the M6, and so on and so on and so on. So until I went to university in Edinburgh in the 90s. That's the first time I sort of discovered the world of motorways and motorway driving. And I was always fascinated by these amazing constructions that would just take you across a country in no time at all. And I remember the first time I drove from Edinburgh to Manchester to see a friend. I loved it. I thought, this is amazing. I could spend all day on the Autobahn. Loved it. And then, of course, when I moved to Germany, I thought, oh, this is it. Here we go, de-restricted roads. We've just entered de-restricted again, by the way. So everyone puts their foot down, and everyone starts hogging the middle lane again. Let me put this back on and see if we can get it to record some more without overheating. Why is it overheating? It shouldn't be doing that. It's annoying. Click. Off we go again. Right, let's record this. So, anything to do in the middle lane? No, so I will move over. The guy behind me is a middle lane hog. He was waiting for me to overtake so he could speed up again. I put my money down that when he gets up to that little white car in front in the middle lane, he will slow down again and just follow him. Shall we see? Place your bets, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see what happens. Tick-tock, tick-tock. Oh, he's overtaking, damn it. Ha! I didn't think he would. Now, in other countries, particularly the United Kingdom, if something like this occurs, this person who just overtook me here, if they see that, oh, there's a lorry coming up, this man in his Skoda might want to overtake, I will move over to let him out. The courteous thing. Doesn't happen. If I indicated to overtake that truck, she would not have moved over for me. 99% of German drivers will not do that for you. And it's not because they're being impolite, it's just because they just don't do it. They just don't do it. You're the loser in the inside lane. You slow down and wait your turn. That's basically what it's all about. It's weird, isn't it? Yeah. So anyway, so I arrived in Germany 25 years ago, and like I said, one of the first things I did, I hired a really fancy car for the weekend and went bananas on the Autobahn, and immediately got a speeding ticket. Because I just assumed, I didn't speak any German, I wasn't paying much attention to the road signs, pretended to ignore them, I thought, oh, it's not for me, and I immediately got a speeding ticket. So then I learned, oh, hold on, there's all these different rules about driving in Germany, and then on the Autobahn, it's not actually as de-restricted as we thought. And as the years have gone on, we're now 25 years later, and the restricted parts of the Autobahn have become more and more and more. It's quite unbelievable. Now, like I say, I live a couple of minutes away from the A3, and the main stretch I drive is between Cologne and Frankfurt. I live pretty much right in the middle between Cologne and Frankfurt. So some days, yesterday for example, we hopped on the Autobahn, went up to Cologne, did some business, got some takeaway food and went home again. It's 100 kilometers to Cologne. And for those 100 kilometers, we give ourselves 50 minutes. 50 minutes. And that's pretty much always the case, unless of course there's traffic jams and things like that. Down to Frankfurt, it's slightly less, it's only 90 something kilometers, and so it's about 45, again 50 minutes down to Frankfurt. Not a problem at all. So we're pretty much halfway between the two. And on that stretch, it's rare, very rare, that you can enjoy the de-restricted sections at high speed for any length of time. If you want to do that kind of thing, you have to be up very early in the morning or very late at night. Then you will have the chance, you can enjoy some of it. But the de-restricted stretches are, like I say, becoming few and far between, and it's almost impossible to enjoy it. So, sensible drivers in Germany now sit back and relax. You will find your average speed. Your average speed will be, if you're doing a sort of a long Autobahn stretch, your average speed will be something around the 120 kilometer mark. So for example, today we've already done 75 kilometers today. We've been on the road for 40 minutes and my average speed so far is 115 kilometers an hour. That's perfectly normal. Perfectly normal. Here comes a very high-speed Audi flying past. A lot of drivers will still enjoy the high-speed stretches. This guy's not enjoying a high-speed stretch. He's slowing down for some reason. He's enjoying the corner. He's enjoying the sunny weather. He's not paying any attention. He's a swimmer. So let's get past him. So I momentarily hit 160 there again to get past that guy. I'll move back, get back to enjoying a comfortable drive on the German Autobahn. What about you? Have you ever driven in Germany? Have you ever been out and about on a German Autobahn? Have you any horror stories about terrible things happening in the Autobahn? Have you been scared shitless by drivers flying past at well over 200 kilometers an hour? I know I have. On these roads, you do spend a lot more time looking in your rear view mirror. Just quite simply because you never know who's going to be flying around the next corner. Today's been actually rather good. There hasn't been much at all. There was one near miss when a car moved over in the other direction. Sadly, I didn't have it on camera. Shame there. Look up ahead, ladies and gentlemen. The right lane is completely free, but we have 3 swimmers in the middle lane doing nothing. Great. So yes, over the years, in my 25 years here, I have lost my license a couple of times for speeding. I've had a few speeding tickets over the year as well. Over the years. A few speeding tickets. Do I have points on my license? I think I do. I don't think they've disappeared yet. I had 1 point on my license for a while recently, and then it was about to disappear. Damn it, I got another one. So that means both of them now stay for the minimum time. You don't lose one after the while. If you accumulate them, then all the old ones stay there as well. It's a bit of a shame. It's not a shame. It's a very good warning. As I get older, however, I'm now 51. As I get older, I am becoming much more relaxed and sensible about driving. I haven't had a speeding ticket for a while. If I'm a good boy and keep my nose clean, the points will disappear. I think this year, actually. I need to keep an eye on that. I think this year. And then nice and clean. My wife, however, drives like a bat out of hell at all times. She's never had a speeding ticket. I don't know how she does it. I really don't know how she does it. Does she avoid speed limits? I'm not going to say that in public. I'm not going to say that in public. I wouldn't say she drives aggressively. She just drives very hard. Drives very well. Very good driver. Let's leave it at that. Yeah, I just seem to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. But I suppose, you know, I'm putting some money in the state Autobahn fund so they can spend it on repairs and whatever else they spend the fine money on. I don't think they do. I just think they put it into the general tax pot and then waste it on whatever they waste it on. What do politicians waste tax on? That's another subject, not for an automotive car channel. Automotive car channel? That's not for an automotive YouTube channel. Right, so here we are. I'm swimming in the middle lane now, but there are a lot of trucks up ahead. No racers behind me, so I think we'll move over here. We'll have a little high-speed blast home. Up ahead, there's a nice tight right bend. Bend to the right. 170. What are we doing now? 180. And we're overtaking everything quite comfortably. There's nobody thrashing up behind me, so we can sit here and enjoy this. So here we are. I'm going to fly around this corner at 180. Up ahead, everything is nice and free. There is still nobody thrashing up behind me. So we're looking all right. Here's a sign saying we have Roadworks 2 kilometers ahead. So that's a warning to slow down, because when there are roadworks, there is definitely going to... So sadly here, my main camera has just decided to overheat as well. Damn it. So here we are entering a section of roadworks. And roadworks are very strictly speed limited. The lanes are much narrower, as you can see. German Autobahns don't use cones to split the lanes. They just use yellow lines, very narrow yellow lines, and little sort of cone style things to the left and right to warn you where the edges of the road are. There will be a speed camera up ahead here, so I'm going to get into the right lane, slow down, and just enjoy it. Now, there's nothing happening here on these roadworks. There's no traffic jam. Everything is absolutely fine. We're not worried. So here we are. Let's slow down past the camera. Hello, Mr. Camera. And I'm not speeding up after the camera. I'm just still going uphill. Car changed gear by itself. That wasn't me. So keeping it nice and slow, till we get out here. Now I'm going to come off at the next junction and see what's wrong with my main camera. So I hope you're enjoying the voiceover of my forward-facing view here as we leave the roadworks around this bend here. And see how narrow it is. That truck is on those lines, so you've got to be very careful. Pay lots of attention. That's why it's so slow and restricted here. Quite rightly too. So we're almost home anyway, so I'm going to come off at this junction here up ahead. So I'll just sneak in behind this truck when the solid yellow line is over. There we go. There's the de-restricted sign, by the way. So theoretically everyone can boot it from this point, but we're going to come in here, slow down and calm down. So there we are. We've just left the Autobahn. We're at one of the Autobahn sort of service stations. It's actually pretty close to home here. And I waited for the camera to cool down a little bit. It overheated, which is not a very good thing to happen. But I suppose these things happen from time to time, don't they? So we left, the camera disappeared before we just entered a series of roadworks where the speed is very much restricted. I got it on the front-facing camera, so I hope that footage works. But yeah, the Autobahn is not quite as magical and mystical as people around the world make it. It's just a major trunk road, sections of which are speed de-restricted. One of these days we'll get out in a nice fancy car, we'll pick a perfect time of day, very early in the morning or very late at night as the sun's coming up or just going down, and we will go for a very, very high-speed blast. I will let you come with me on that. It's great fun when you can do it, when conditions allow, when the car you're driving allows, when everything works. It's a wonderful feeling, thrashing along on a public road at 250 to 300 kilometers an hour legally. It's a wonderful feat. You can hardly do it anywhere else in the world. There aren't many places where you can, and it is a wonderful feeling. Will there ever be a general speed restriction on the German Autobahn? The eco folks out there are talking about reducing emissions. They're talking about using less fossil fuels and things like that. The simple fact of the matter is, if you're driving really, really fast, you're using a lot more fuel and you are pumping out a lot more emissions. Simple. So if you want to curb those things, then slow everyone down a bit. Simple as that. Will it ever happen in Germany? I don't think so. Probably not in my lifetime, but you never know. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the content, give the video a quick thumbs up. If you fancy, hit the subscribe button for future notifications. What's coming up? I will be introducing the new member of the fleet very, very soon, so hang around for that. We will be doing some repair videos very soon. I have quite a lot of brakes that need doing, so I'm going to be doing some brakes and then various servicing videos and so on coming up. If you're interested in seeing certain cars tested, let me know in the comments below and I will reach out to the necessary people and see if we can get that privilege. Wouldn't that be exciting? Especially here on the German Autobahn. Exciting stuff. Well, folks, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed our little trip out and about. Take care. See you in the next one. Bye-bye.